Hi, I'm Shannon Van House, a diabetes educator at Claxton-Hepburn.
I'm Steve Hawes. I'm the Director of Food Service at Claxton-Hepburn.
And I'm Michelle Catlin. I am the Outreach Prevention and Wellness Coordinator at Claxton-Hepburn.
Today we are doing one of our meals for the 25 Feeds 5 program, and we're going to be cooking Greek chicken with roasted vegetables. So we're going to start by preparing the chicken. That way it'll give us time while the chicken is roasting, then we can start preparing our vegetables. So what did we get at Save-A-Lot, Steve, for?
So we bought a roasting chicken. You want to look for a roasting chicken, not a frying chicken for this recipe. And you also want to look for no added hormones or steroids. And always check the expiration date.
It's a pretty, the whole roaster chicken was only $5 or $6. Yeah. Lots of good deals on meat that can provide enough for a whole family, to feed a whole family. This one we got at one of our sponsors, Save-A-Lot. So let's get it started. Okay, so we're going to start prepping the vegetables. So we've pre-washed everything, and we're just going to chop them into sort of bite-sized pieces that are manageable, and then we're going to add them to the chicken pot. You do have the option, if you don't prefer to have skins on the potato or the parsnip or the carrots, to shave them off. But we're going to go ahead and leave the skin on because there's lots of vitamins and extra fiber that can be gleaned from the skin of the vegetables.
So what are some of the nutritional properties in carrots, Shannon?
Carrots are really high in beta-carotene. They are high in fiber. They are very low in calories. There are some studies that show that they contribute to weight loss. They have some immune protective factors. Lots of good benefits from carrots.
What about parsnips? They're kind of different looking.
Yeah. Parsnips have like, I don't know, how would you describe their flavor? It's kind of
almost turnipy, or
yeah, it's very fibrous and it's like almost spicy, I'd say.
Yeah.
And they're really different. They add a neat flavor dimension to whatever dish you use them in. They're pretty versatile.
Yeah, they're a lot softer than a carrot too, so they don't take as long to cook.
Yeah.
What about potatoes? Potatoes sometimes get a bad rap.
They do get a bad rap, but potatoes are pretty healthy. They're a whole food, so they don't have anything added to them like, you know, other things like pastas. They end up with a lot of additives if you ever read the ingredients lists of pastas. But potato, they come out of the ground. They're high in fiber. They've got vitamins and minerals, so lots of good benefits for potatoes. And they're also filling because of their fiber content. Mm-hmm. You don't tend to overeat them as much as some other vegetable, or sorry, some other foods that you could have that are starch.
Yeah, the other thing I like about potatoes is they're so versatile. I mean, you can have chopped potatoes, you can do a baked potato, you can do mashed potatoes. Yeah, they're just really home fries.
Yep, and the leftovers are versatile. You can do a lot of things with the leftovers. That's why I like to cook with potatoes.
Yeah, they make a good breakfast food too. Sometimes people forget about using potatoes as a breakfast option.
Yeah, exactly.
What about, like, what's the difference between a red potato and a sweet potato? And can you eat them the same way? Should you be careful? Because I I've heard sweet potatoes have more sugar, etc. in them.
And remember, repeat that question back. Be like, the difference between a red potato and a sweet potato is.
Yeah. So the difference between, I hear that a lot. Like I've heard that sweet potatoes are really high in sugar. So, you know, if I'm watching my blood sugar, should I be eating sweet potatoes or white potatoes? And it's actually a misconception that a sweet potato has more sugar. They have more fiber, so they have a lower glycemic index than a white potato does. And they also are loaded with, like, they have beta carotene in them and lots of good properties. So I like to add sweet potatoes. So they also have some protein, potatoes do.
You know, that said, this recipe is really versatile because in the fall you can have butternut squash, potatoes, pears even.
Yep, you can even add some celery and onions to it for flavoring. Cooked celery and onions are delicious.
Yeah, as things come into season, there's so many options.
Yeah.
So I'm just making sort of, I don't know if you can see, but I'm just sort of making like small bite-sized dices with these potatoes and try to keep everything uniform because as it cooks, they'll all cook evenly. You don't want one vegetable to cook faster than another. So neither Michelle or I have any
zero cooking skills
or training. We're just, you know, moms that have cooked for families, and you know, I'm not a super cook. As a matter of fact, my husband this morning was surprised that I was going to be doing a cooking teaching show and said, "Honey, the big box with the knobs, that's the stove." So.
Yeah, I too. I'm not a fan of cooking, but when I do cook, I like to cook real good, healthy food, and I like to make it as simple as possible. Because I think the simpler you make it, the more apt you're to do it, and the more I think that you can kind of enjoy doing it as a group thing with your family and your friends. And cooking just brings people together.
Yeah, and that's why I really like this recipe because there's really nothing to it. You buy the ingredients, you chop up the veggies. The hardest part is doing what we're doing right now, and you know, this could easily be something that you could invite your kids to do if they're, you know, okay with a knife. They could help chop up, and it's really a great way to engage them in cooking and meal prep, and a good time to talk about healthy eating.
Yeah, and it would be a good weeknight dinner because you could make it the night before.
Yes,
When
absolutely.
you come home from work, just pop it in the oven.
Do you think you could make this in a crock pot?
That was what I was going to say, is that I've actually done this, or a very similar dish, in the crock pot and just put it in the morning, and then it's ready by the time you get home from work. So that's an option too.
Yeah, you can interchange the chicken with a turkey or even a roast and do it the same way. Today we're going to do it in a roaster in the oven.
So now that we're done with chopping, we can add our vegetables.
Oh, you got to put the oil.
Oh, okay. So the next step in the process is we're going to sort of put everything together. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to our vegetables, and Michelle's going to talk about our seasoning.
Yep, so this is a Greek seasoning blend. You can buy it already made. We chose to make our own. There's quite a few things in it, but don't panic if you don't have what we have in ours, because, you know, grab what you like. Everybody has different tastes. But ours has some salt in it, some garlic powder, some basil, some Greek oregano, cinnamon. Yep, there's cinnamon in it. Some black pepper, parsley, rosemary, dill, some thyme, nutmeg, and marjoram. But again, if you don't have those things in your cupboard, grab whatever you like and put it on it.
So, yeah, you can. There's so many different things if you can put in. You can just start basic with garlic powder and salt.
Yep.
And the vegetables and the chicken itself just give it so much flavor.
And if you ever want to stock up your cupboard with like basic, herbs for cooking, garlic, onion, basil, oregano, thyme, parsley, those are all really good ones to have on hand.
So I'm just giving this a toss to get everything coated with the oil. You could do it a little bit more gracefully than I am with a spoon, but I find that hands get the job done better.
Agreed.
So do you want to go ahead and add the seasoning,
so we're
Michelle?
just going to sprinkle that. The recipe called for 2 tablespoons of the seasoning. So that's what.
You can add to your taste whatever you like.
Yep.
Maybe
And if you're somebody that doesn't eat a lot of salt, you can eliminate the salt and maybe add more garlic or something like that for the flavor.
And And that's the beauty about cooking yourself
Mhm.
is that you're not reliant on, food companies to dictate how much salt you're getting in. You can just put in a teaspoon of salt in the recipe and you
It
can
smells
modify how
good.
much. My goodness, the spices are really nice. So just mix that all in together. This is a really, really nice mix. It's colorful too.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking earlier about, parsnips and how they're sort of a unique vegetable or not traditional, I guess. And if you they weren't available at your grocery store, you could substitute something else, like maybe add some yams or zucchini or some sort of squash. So now that we've got it well mixed, I'm gonna slide this over. Do you want me to do it since I'm already dirty? So we're just going to add the veggies sort of to the side of the chicken. Make some room here, Mr. Chicken. Or Miss Chicken.
How many potatoes did we start with? We had about 7 or 8?
I think so.
Yeah. And about
they were about
4,
a medium-sized potato.
Yep, just to give you an idea of what you need to start with.
And I think it made, the recipe called for 5 servings, right? Yeah. So exactly 5 servings. And it's really nice because, this meal doesn't end here. If you wanted to do the vegetables as a leftover, you could take the chicken carcass and whatever meat was left on the chicken and turn it into a great soup. And if the chicken's already seasoned, so it
You
really
can throw your leftover vegetables in the soup with it as well if you have any left.
Yep, or add some new stuff. Get some chicken stock and turn it into another meal. Beautiful.
There you have it.
So now we have our chicken and vegetables and we're ready to go in the oven. And we're going to start it in the oven at 400 and we're going to do that for about 10 minutes to kind of braise it a little bit. And then we're going to drop the temperature to 350 and cook it for about 45 minutes to an hour. But we're going to check the temperature and make sure the internal temperature of the chicken is 165. So we'll show you in a minute how to do that. So we're going to put our bird in.
Yeah, let's get that in the oven and then we'll start working on the salad. So we have our chicken out, and the first thing you want to do before you serve is make sure that it's at temperature of 165. So you want to go into the thickest part of the meat anytime you check any kind of temperature of a meat. And let's take a little second here.
Yeah, you want to kind of stay in a thick spot because that way it'll give you the true temperature of the deepest parts of the meat. Because if you just stick it in a little wing over here, then that part might be up to temperature, but the breast may not.
And we are good, and it smells delicious.
Wonderful.
So why don't we get our salad prepped while we're waiting for this to cool?
So next up, we're going to start a salad. We're going to pair our chicken dish with a nice Greek salad.
That is a beautiful plate of vegetables.
It is absolutely gorgeous. I just pulled it out of my garden this morning.
Nice.
That was a lie. But we did get it from Save a Lot. They have a really great selection of produce. We're going to start with some romaine lettuce. We're going to add some purple onion to it, some cherry tomatoes, a cucumber, and then we were going to do some lemon juice, and we'll also add some Kalamata olives.
So there's different kinds of lettuce. What determines, is there a better lettuce, or is it all good for you?
It's all good for you. Anything that basically grows out of the ground and hasn't been altered in any way is a really good choice for something to eat. A lot of people think that, iceberg lettuce is no good, which is not true. It has lots of fiber, it has lots of water content and some vitamins. Usually the rule of thumb with vegetables is the more rich the color, so the darker the green on the lettuce, the more nutrient dense it is. Same with vegetables. We always say eat the rainbow. So pick lots of different colors of veggies in your diet, and you'll be sure to get a variety of vitamins and minerals.
Yeah. So when you're doing the lettuce, you just basically want to kind of tear it up, whatever kind of lettuce that you're using. This one here, you usually take the vein out because it can be a little chewy.
And that's just preference. Some people like that.
We'll start with that.
And why are you tearing it versus chopping it, Michelle?
Because when you chop it, you tend to lose some of the nutrients in it. Whereas if tearing it, you're processing it less basically.
Okay.
Versus chopping it.
I read that it's like chopping it turns it brown faster. I don't know if that's true, but
yeah.
So Michelle's tearing off just the tender pieces of each of those leaves and leaving the vein in the middle.
Yeah. So, all right. What's next?
So next we have a small red onion. So if you're a crier, somebody get out the tissues.
Onions are considered one of the superfoods.
Yeah.
They're full of flavor. They come in different varieties.
Some of them are sweet and mild, like a Vidalia onion.
Yep.
Some of them are a little spicier with some heat.
Yep.
Depends on what you like.
Yep. And generally, if you're doing a salad, you want to go towards your sweeter onions, like these ones, or your white Vidalias. Whereas cooking, you would tend to buy the ones that come in the bag. Your cooking onions, I think they call them.
Yellow onions.
Yeah. I know there's tricks to the trade how not to cry when you're eating an onion, but I don't remember how. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna slice it because we want it to look nice and pretty, and you're just gonna kind of pull them apart and put them in here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that looks delicious. All right, so what's next?
So next up, we are going to do, this is an English cucumber.
What's that mean?
You know, I'm not exactly sure, but it certainly looks different than the typical cucumber. It has less seeds in it. It is, a longer, thinner cucumber.
Milder flavor.
Milder flavor.
Yep. The thing about cucumbers, too, is sometimes people peel them when they put them in their salads and stuff. I highly recommend you leave the skin on because, again, that's where a lot of your nutritional benefit comes from on most of your vegetables is in the skin. That's what, it has all your fiber in it.
It's just important to make sure you wash them well.
Yep. So we're just going to slice it however thick as you like it.
You can dice it. You can cut it into slices like Michelle's doing.
Yep.
You can cut that.
If you want to get really fancy, you can take a fork and go down the side and
make it pretty.
Make it pretty.
Entertaining.
That's not us. Alright, so we're just going to sprinkle that on top.
Do we have the Kalamata olives?
Mm-hmm.
Alright,
So next up are the cherry tomatoes. So the cherry tomatoes, we're just going to cut those in half. They're almost bite-sized as they are.
Yep. And there's actually a tomato knife. It's a knife with a serrated edge. And if you ever tried to cut a tomato with a non-serrated knife, it's really hard to do. So if you can get yourself a serrated knife, it makes cutting tomatoes much easier.
We were just told that by our resident expert, Steve Haas.
Yeah, so we're just going to cut these in half. And when you're looking for tomatoes, you want to make sure they're crispy and not like soft and squishy. That means they're probably getting to the point where they're almost overripe.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you notice when we're cutting these, there's not a lot of juice and stuff coming out of them, which means they're like at perfect stage right now. Whereas if they were starting to get a little overripe, the juice would be all over and they'd be kind of messy.
And you want to look for tomatoes that are nice and red. Sometimes a cherry tomato that looks like it's still sort of yellow is going to be a little bit more bitter and not quite fully ripe.
Yep. The other thing with tomatoes is this time of year, it's the summer. They're local, so you could get your hands on some really, really nice tomatoes, like big ones that you can make a sandwich with. So
yeah, it's a great time of year. So these are Kalamata olives. Usually come jarred in liquid, and olives have the benefit of olive oil. So that's a monounsaturated fat, healthy fat. You do have to be a little bit careful because olives are very heavy in sodium, so they're in a brine, which has a lot of sodium in it, but almost everything we've prepared today has very little salt. The only salt came from the seasoning that we added to the chicken, and now the olives, and then the cheese that we'll get to in just a minute.
Yep, so I just sliced them in half, and again, we're just going to kind of sprinkle these all over. It's looking really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So next up, we are going to add a 1/4 cup of crumbled goat cheese.
Which we got this at Save-A-Lot.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't like goat cheese, certainly you can
Yeah.
substitute
Oh,
with
yeah.
another type of cheese if you prefer blue
So many
cheese, if you
Parmesan,
even like,
yep.
Parmesan cheese shaved on top,
Yep.
or you could even do a cheddar cheese if that's your preference.
Yep, so we're just gonna sprinkle.
There you go, Michelle. You measured that perfectly.
Yeah.
That's how I measure.
There.
Good.
There we go.
And then you can finish this salad off with just a little bit of ground black pepper to taste. You can even add a little bit of salt. And then we were gonna do a lemon vinaigrette dressing, which is really easy. You could throw together with just some olive oil, some apple cider vinegar, and then the zest of a lemon, and then some squeezed lemon juice, and then just a little bit of sugar to taste. Okay, so we've got our beautiful salad ready, and we're gonna make our own dressing. So dressing can be very simple. It can be as simple as oil and vinegar with salt and pepper. You can add any other seasonings to it. We're gonna do a lemon zest dressing, salad dressing. So we're gonna start with a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has just a little bit more flavor than a white vinegar does. Kind of like, well, like apple cider. And then a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And you can measure in a liquid measuring cup as well. You know, with salad dressing especially, you don't have to be super exact. Some people like a little bit more of a vinegary flavor. Some like a little bit more oil. It's really just up to your preference. And then we're gonna let that set, and Michelle's gonna show us how to do the lemons.
Yep, so it calls for some lemon squeeze and lemon zest. So we're gonna just take our lemons, we already cut them in half, we're just gonna kind of squeeze them in here.
Ooh.
One of the good things about making salad dressing yourself is when you buy salad dressing in the stores, it's full of hidden things like sugar. Generally, if you read the label on most of your salad dressing, sugar is probably the 3rd or 4th ingredient in it, even in Italian. So by making your own, you can kind of limit what you put in it, and you can kind of flavor it your own way. So there's that.
And you can use a lemon squeezer, but it's just so much easier just to squish it by your hand. And then you just have to sort of fish out the seeds that fall in it.
Yep. Or you could squeeze it into something else and then fish the seeds out. That's probably what we should have done, but you know, we're not professionals here.
Clearly.
Yeah. So then the next thing you're going to do is it calls for lemon zest, and there's an actual tool called the zester, but again, this is a simple kitchen, so we're going to use our cheese grater. So we already got a little bit going here. So all you're going to do is you're going to leave the peel on the lemon, and you're just going to go up and down with it on the cheese grater, and you get this nice little stuff here they call the zest. And we're just going to throw that right into our...
Lots of flavor in the zest.
Yep, it'll add lots of lemon flavor, so we're just going to kind of scoop it up.
And speaking of tools, a lot of the tools, you know, you can buy fancy lemon zesters, citrus zesters, but you can also just use a cheese grater like Michelle just showed you. And that's something that you can buy at the dollar store. You don't have to get fancy, simple tools will work. And that is it. That's how
so that's our dressing.
To make a dressing.
So what we're going to pour it over the salad, and we're going to toss it.
And you could pour it on now, or you could wait. If you're not ready to eat, you probably should hold off. If you're going to kind of put the salad away, hold off on the dressing, keep it separate, because it will start to wilt the vegetables and lettuce.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of toss it in there, and there we have a beautiful salad. One thing about this whole meal is nothing came from a package. 0.
So this is our beautiful, well-balanced meal with the whole plate full.
It's delicious and colorful.
It is beautiful, lots of color. So notice half of my plate is the non-starchy vegetables of the salad. And then I've got my starchy vegetables here in this corner with the potato and the parsnips. And then our meat portion should be about 3 ounces, or the size of a deck of cards, or the palm of your hand is a really nice, easy way to figure out what your portion size of your protein should be. Thank you for joining us for this episode of 25 Feeds 5. We hope that you enjoyed the roasted Greek chicken recipe and the Greek salad. Join us next time for another healthy recipe.